Today we're discussing the craziest reveal and form in One Piece history and how everyone who saw it to date reacted to this most insane development in One Piece. We'll take a look at how this, the biggest of reveals, changed everything in One Piece. Chill at parking with it and smash that like button if you enjoy these One Piece videos and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. At the same time, you're also helping us inch closer towards that insane 2 million subscribers goal, and I would be eternally grateful for that. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. First, we must give props to Zunesha, who immediately said, even before Luffy was fully transformed, the following, and I quote, "I can hear it, how long it's been. I hear the drums of liberation. For the first time in 800 years, he is here. Joy Boy has returned," end quote. This was when Luffy's face was all melty and the internet was going crazy with one of the most insane One Piece cliffhangers ever. At this point, we were wondering, will Luffy even be Luffy anymore, or will he be taken over by Joy Boy? Thankfully, as it turns out, Luffy was Luffy and just dubbed this new form Gear 5. So Zunesha's words seem to suggest that about 800 years ago, Joy Boy had also awakened this same devil fruit that Luffy has now awakened. And Momo, for his part, is shocked at hearing this, saying, "Luffy is Joy Boy?" So yes, Luffy is, in a very real sense, the return of Joy Boy. And in every prophecy that mentions Joy Boy returning, you can bet it means Luffy. Multiple people responded to Luffy's powerful haki in this form. A recovering Sanji suddenly wakes up out of breath saying, "Luffy?" ? While a star-studded cast like Kid, Law, Hyogoro, and Marco the Phoenix can't help but notice him too. Meanwhile, back at Marijoa, the elders are dealing with the fact that they made Kaido angry and lost an elite agent. And some are wondering if it was worth it just to get Luffy. Because keep in mind, at this point, they think they did stop Luffy. While Saturn, who's played the biggest role lately in the manga, is the one to say, "What if I told you that there was a potential future that would make us beg for this outcome? It is always better to eliminate dangerous variables," end quote. While Elder Ethan Barron adds, "In every era, the world government has attempted to recover the Gum Gum fruit, and not once has it ever succeeded. For 800 years. It is as though the devil fruit is trying to escape our grasp, and it very well might be. Zone fruits contain a will of their own, and this particular fruit has the name of a god. The other name of the Gum Gum fruit is the zone-type human fruit mythical model Nika, possessing a body with the properties of rubber and fighting in whatever way he fancies, bringing smiles to the faces of the people, the warrior of liberation also known as Nika the Sun God. Awakening brings his body greater physical strength and freedom. It is said that in all the world there is no power more ridiculous." So although at this point the elders don't necessarily know that Luffy has awakened, they still react to the idea of him reaching this awakened state. And they would much rather lose a top agent and even anger the Yonko with the highest bounty than even risk Luffy awakening. We also find out that there is no power more ridiculous and that this fruit is so special it's the only one we know that was given a fake name to hide the truth. Furthermore, it's so important that the government has been after it for 800 years, but the will of the mythical zone fruit kept evading them, whatever that means. Luffy's own reaction is worth mentioning too. He says, "Oh, I can do everything I wanted to do. I think I can fight a bit longer. My heartbeat sounds so funny. This is the pinnacle of what I can do. This is Gear 5, end quote. So even though Luffy himself doesn't know all the intricacies or the whole truth, he does pretty much realize right off the bat that this is his final most powerful form. And pretty much all room for improvement will come down to refining it. That in and of itself makes this the biggest deal and the hypest gear. Not to mention signals to us that the end of One Piece might be closer than we wish to think. Kaido for his part looks scared when he wonders what's that on the roof, and the people around him start fainting from the level of Luffy's Conqueror's haki. Luffy then pulls out Kaido with his giant arm like Kaido was a mere snake toy or something. Chopper for his part is overjoyed, crying and waving his arms, asking, "Is that Luffy?" Notably, as we'll see, his crew doesn't have the craziest reactions to this form, but a lot of top tier characters with the most knowledge in the world of One Piece definitely do. After Luffy is temporarily done throwing around the so-called strongest creature Kaido realizes it's Straw Hat and is actually, to his credit, happy. He didn't want to win through cheating, but fair and square, so this gives him a second chance to do just that. After Luffy pulls up the ground to deflect back Kaido's blast breath, Kaido says, "Given that you're transferring your rubber power to other things, I suppose I can interpret this as the awakening of your paramecia powers." But something doesn't add up. Body transformations like that are the trademark of zone powers. So here, Kaido doesn't know the truth of the fruit, but he knows something is amiss. Luffy, for his part, keeps using Gum Gum in his attack name, showing that he too doesn't know the truth of his fruit, even though he's awakened it. After Luffy drains this new form for the first time, Kaido thinks it's all over. He asks, "Who are you? You have my assurances. After you die, someone will tell the tale of your great battle," end quote. Even as Kaido thinks he's gonna win, he can't help but be impressed by Gear 5 Luffy's performance up to this point. Luffy then reactivates his form despite Kaido telling him to be careful or he'll die. Luffy associates the form with his heart hitting that certain beat, and once it does, he re-enters the form saying, "Yeah, that's the sound." Kaido continues to think about the form as they fight. He thinks, what does this mean? He turns all white, he uses armament and the Supreme King and can transfer his powers to other things. I've never seen such freewheeling combat before, end quote. So in his own way, Kaido is pretty much reiterating what the elders said, that it's the most ridiculous power in the world, making possible what shouldn't be possible even among devil fruits. And that's saying something. During the fight, we again hear from Zunesha, thinking, "Oh Joy Boy, it's as though you're right there. My heart is dancing. I cannot help but feel that fate is at work. I cannot help but put my hopes in him," end quote. Perhaps Zunesha thinks this because of his experience with Joy Boy of 800 years ago, but also it's something that's been tied to Luffy's character and to the sun god Nika myth. People, especially the oppressed, want to put their trust and faith into both of them. Similar to what Mihawk said, Luffy has the ability to make allies of everyone around him, and that's the most dangerous power on the sea. It could just be a parallel, but it may be a quality of the fruit too, since as we saw with Bello Betty, fruit powers can encourage people and influence their feelings. Kaido tells us something about awakening too, when he's responding to Luffy's new form. He says awakening is what happens when your mind and body catch up to your powers, and those are certainly ridiculous powers, and there's that word again, ridiculous. When Kaido witnesses Luffy grab lightning from the sky, he says, "So you grabbed the lightning, eh? How preposterous." However, as impressive as Luffy's fruit powers are, Kaido says abilities alone cannot conquer the world. The world is convenient that way. Roger didn't have any fruit powers because only Haki can transcend all. This is an important part of the story because up until now, Luffy's fruit was pretty much being portrayed as a very broken, if not the most broken power. But Kaido makes it clear that the most ridiculous fruit power cannot make up for a lack of Haki mastery. Like everyone else, Luffy needs to get his Haki on point, and thankfully he has that on lock too, as we're about to see. Before that, Kaido suggests that despite Luffy's awakening, he still has a weakness to being cut, and it appears that way when Luffy takes his Wind Blade attacks. As Luffy prepares for his final attack, Yamato is shocked, seeing the size of Luffy's fist, and saying he's going to punch through the entire island. Kaido decides to take the attack full on and uses his Flame Dragon Torch form. He assumes Luffy's arm will melt into nothing before it can come into contact with himself, but he underestimates Luffy's mastery of Haki. As Luffy points out, the old man taught me how to do that without touching. I'll smash you all the way to the bottom of hell. As Luffy wins the clash, he screams that he'll create a world where his friends can eat as much as they want, and Kaido's eye snaps open as if in shock before he's sent deep into the earth. Kaido thinks about what he told King way back when, that Joy Boy is the man who shows up and beats him in the future. And so that's exactly what Luffy did in his Gear 5 form. So it's interesting that both Kaido and Zunesha are in agreement that Gear 5 Luffy is the new era Joy Boy. We already saw how scared the elders were by the idea of awakened Luffy, so it's not surprising that when they see his new form and his new bounty poster, they freak out. Top man War Curie is the one that says he wants it reprinted because of the new form and the fact that the D was removed from the name as asked. If you'll remember, they did that with Gold D Roger by changing it to Gold Roger as well in a way. So it really seems like Luffy is getting up to that Pirate King level. Big news, Morgans though loves Luffy's new form, calling it that mystical form, and ignores orders, telling his messengers to carry these far and wide. Shanks' crew, after the new posters come out and Luffy gets his new Yonko status, now know that Luffy is a great pirate. Lucky Roo even suggests going to see Luffy now when they're near Wano. Yasop, however, says he's not ready to see Usopp yet. Shanks, for his part, looks at Luffy's awakened form and thinks, well. He also thinks back to when he got the fruit from a government ship and the government agents were shocked, thinking there's no treasure here, just a single devil fruit. The government agents also think, what could that mean to them? It just turns you into rubber. We also get a flashback of Shanks sacrificing his arm for Luffy. Thus, through Shanks' reaction and thoughts, I'm all but certain that he knew about the truth of this fruit, and now he's happy to see that Luffy was the right one to awaken it. Shanks then says he's not interested in seeing Luffy, to Lucky Roo's shock. Rather, he decides it's time to deal with Bartolomeo, who has been causing trouble in his territories and putting up Luffy's flag. Also, it seems Shanks really feels the kick in the pants now with all the progress Luffy's made and says to Beckman, let's claim the One Piece. In other words, it seems like Shanks' reaction to this new awakening of Luffy's and his new power and status is to treat him as a serious rival. He is nice enough to scare off Green Bull from Wano before he goes though, so Luffy can get the rest he deserves after beating Kaido. Then we get to Egghead and we get to see Luffy's Gear 5 form again when he faces awakened Lucci. As Lucci points out to Luffy, he's not the only one that's gotten stronger. On a side note, I love that about One Piece. It's an evolving world where even beaten opponents can make progress and come back. So Lucci's reaction to the new form is pretty much so what, I'm stronger too and I've awakened too. Vegapunk's reaction is more interesting since after all he's one of the most knowledgeable characters in the series. He says in the oldest books of devil fruits there is no such thing as a gum gum fruit. This confuses Usopp, who says he's always going gum gum this and gum gum that. But back to Vegapunk, and he is deeply moved when he sees the new form. He says, what a beautiful sight. Has the warrior in white appeared? He asks, tell me, what is this transformation exactly? Nami answers, we don't know either. Isn't this his Gum Gum power? Vegapunk continues saying he looks just like a god who only appears in the oldest of texts. Sanji responds, a god? He's Luffy. You know he's a moron, right? And Vegapunk answers, indeed, the foolish and laughable warrior of liberation who brings smiles to all people, also known as Nika the sun god. Nami says she's never heard of Nika, and Vegapunk responds, you wouldn't have. Then he continues for a while, but I gotta read it all because it's such huge information that we've been waiting for forever. He says, it's a name that's been erased from the historical record, but as long as people wish for him, his existence will never truly disappear. All things are brought into this world with hope, even the devil fruits. Every devil fruit is a possibility for human evolution that someone desired. If only I could be like this, if only I could be like that. All of those powers represent the many branches of the future of humanity, but that unnatural status is loathed by the seed, the mother of nature, a fitting punishment for its sin. Those with powers exist in different dimensions, dreamed up by someone else before them. Such a fascinating world, end quote. Meanwhile, when Sentomaru sees Luffy, he just comments, you got that weird look going on, in response to his Gear 5 form. So I love how different everyone's response is. Unfortunately, Sentomaru gets attacked by Lucci mid-talk. Lucci, for his part, thinks after a while, where is awakened Luffy getting so much force? He says he feels his mind slipping away from him. But before Luffy can knock him out completely, he escapes with his crew and returns to his droopy, drained form. Awakened Luffy, as you'd expect, jumps from one top-tier opponent to the other, and next he fights Admiral Kizaru, the man who looked so untouchable, especially pre-timeskip. After fighting a bit, Luffy finally decides it's time to use Gear 5, and he appears in giant form and grabs Kizaru with his giant hand. A shocked and sweaty Kizaru says there it is, so this is the thing you do. Immediately, Kizaru says, well, this is no good. After some fighting, Kizaru tries to escape to complete the mission. Clearly, Gear 5 Luffy is not an opponent he can quickly overpower, and he knows that. Even more impressive is how Luffy can tank Kizaru's attacks and even catch up to him, a guy with light powers known for his speed. An out-of-breath Kizaru even says, listen, I'm sorry, but if I spend all my time on you, I can't fulfill my mission. And then after getting hit with Luffy's star gun attack, Kizaru says he's seeing stars and is rendered immobile for the time being. Saturn, for his part, immediately recognizes Luffy as Nika when he sees him falling from the sky. Saturn goes for Luffy's withered recovering body when he gets a chance, but Luffy is saved by Frankie. Saturn at one point says, Luffy and Bonnie, we failed to anticipate your presence here, but if your fate is strong enough to escape this desperate situation, I would very much like to see it. He definitely seems confident in his abilities, that's for sure. It's during this arc that we also learned that Kuma, the last of the Buccaneer race, knew the story of Nika and wanted to be just like Nika, so he could save the imprisoned and suffering. He passed the knowledge of the sun god down to his adopted daughter Bonnie too. He led her to believe that Nika will come to free her too. So the big awakened Luffy helping Bonnie moment, and Bonnie making the connection between Luffy and Nika, is definitely one big upcoming moment to look forward to. We even saw during Kuma's flashback that he's betting on Luffy. He compared Luffy and Nika and said that if there is a hero who will bring a great transformation to this sea, he thinks it must be Luffy. The fact that Luffy ended up having the Nika fruit is just too perfect. And recently, someone gave Luffy food so he can recover quicker and hopefully fight Saturn. It's not confirmed, but a lot of people expect it to be Kizaru, who was shown at the time simply with an enigmatic 3-dot speech bubble. I've been saying for a while that Kizaru's internal struggle has been coming to a boiling point this arc. So maybe this is him finally deciding, hey, maybe fighting against a little girl and my friends, rather than this clearly evil demon guy, is not the right move. And like Luffy and Nika tend to do, perhaps Luffy won Kizaru over to his side. That would definitely make it more believable that the Straw Hats could escape this desperate situation, as Saturn called it. Now, if you like learning more about the truth behind Luffy's Devil Fruit, then you won't want to miss my video about Zoro and Sanji's Devil Fruit powers, link on screen right now. Like and subscribe to help us reach 2 million subscribers here on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.